All right, welcome everybody. It's 5:30. We're going to go ahead and get started with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, let's start with the roll call.
Kramer? Present. Ben's not here. Tim Mills?
Here.
Matt Rankin?
Here.
Doug Burley? Here. Sue Wilson? Here. Quorum?
We have a quorum. Good news with Superintendent Inns.
Absolutely. Go ahead and get started here. It does say yesterday, but that is a mistake. That was on our Facebook page. In April, the Indianola Community School District hosted the Special Olympics West Central Spring Games. Those that finished first will compete at the Special Olympics Iowa State game in May. Ms. Baker, do you know when that is? Has it been held yet?
No, it's the same day as graduation practice, so the 20, I don't know.
So we do have a number of students that you can see placed very highly on that and will be competing at the state competition. Congratulations to all those who participated. And as you can see, Indianola had a very good showing, and I had the opportunity to walk out there, and it was a great event. The number of people that were there, and it was a beautiful day, and the kids were excited just to be out and having a good time. Next, the Emerson PTO and music teacher Natalie Gordon collaborated to bring another performance opportunity to the Emerson students on Friday, April 14th. Opera Iowa performers came and spent the afternoon sharing their love and knowledge of music. And then after that, the entire school was able to enjoy a performance of Sid the Serpent, a circus-themed children's opera about a snake who travels around the world. On April 19th, we had a large group of high school students attend Build My Future, a hands-on career event with over 85 different vendors with a focus on jobs in the trades field. Carolyn Brook, a student of Dr. Brandy Dara, defended her academic paper for AP research. Carolyn is the first Indianola High School student that completed the paper, presentation, and oral defense for this course that was offered for the first time this year. So congratulations to her, because I'm sure there was a ton of work that had to go in on that. Congratulations also to the music department students for their fine showing at the state solo and ensemble contest at Des Moines Lincoln. As you can see, the band, vocal, and orchestra and piano received many Division I and II ratings. Congratulations are in order to those 9 ensembles that you can see that received a Division I rating, and a special congratulations to the 4 students who received perfect scores. Later on down, you'll see their photos as well. The Distinguished Achievement Award is a program offered at Indianola Middle School in which participating students fulfill criteria in any of the 4 of the 6 given categories: citizenship, STEM, the arts, service learning, career exploration, and GPA. Indianola Middle School was proud to recognize these 9 students who received this honor, and it was a very good night, and the work that those students put in and what they were able to share, they really do a nice job with that. Next is a little bit of our MVP training at the high school. Incoming Indianola High School junior and senior MVP mentors spent 2.5 days on leadership training. Next, our 8th grade science had a great time during their field trip to the Indianola Wastewater Treatment Facility. On April 4th, the high school life skills class put eggs in their incubator. While they waited for the 21 days to see if any would hatch, they talked about the chicken life cycles, tied it to the plant life cycles, and for their greenhouse unit. Next, Drake Relays Friday Night Under the Lights. We had an amazing opportunity for our middle school runners. They had a great experience with many personal bests and I guess we would call them school records. So again, I know we had a lot of high school students that participated and did really well there as well. Got some information from the middle school track program. And to tie their chicken life cycle to the unit on chemistry lessons, life skills class made eggshell geodes by growing borax crystals in eggshells. Pretty impressive, and they look pretty cool, and I think the kids did a great job with that. And last but not least, I just want to recognize the school board. It is School Board Recognition Month. So I'd like to thank you for all that you do as school board members for leading the district. And again, it's not always a thankful task. But again, I appreciate all the work that you do. So Ben's not here yet, but Ben Metzger, Donna Kramer, Matt Rankin, Roger Rowe, yep, Tim Mills, and Sue Wilson. So again, on behalf of the community, just want to thank you for all that you do and all the support that you provide. And that is it for good news.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Due to some time constraints for our presentations tonight, we are going to move letter F up and go ahead with our presentations.
Yeah, so I want to welcome Matt Schwartz, Greg Rodriguez, Lexi Riccardi, and I don't know if Ann Van Treek made it or not, but Ann Van Treek is another one of our computer science and what we're calling engineering teachers. And I also want to thank Ali Sauter and Celeste Lumsden for assisting them with refining the presentation, because as tech integrationists, they support teachers with many different aspects of their jobs. So, Ray, if you want to move to the next one. So just a little bit on some of those statistics. When we were looking back in 2022, at that point in time, there were over 6,000 computer science jobs in Iowa at a salary of about $83,000 each. But we're only having about 774 graduates in that area in Iowa. So not only are we taking a look at, are we preparing students for careers, if this is something they would choose to do, but it is a growing field and there's a need in that area. Those of you who have been on the computer or in the curriculum committee over the last couple of years, you've seen this chart several times, and that's our progression of computer science skills. It's not just about hardware, it's not just about coding. Really, we're talking about how do we think? How do we understand how technology works and how we use that to solve problems in our lives? So that's the progression through the age levels, and it's dramatic when you see the skills and the complexity of it as it gets up to the high school level from the lower elementary. One of the things you'll remember from the elementary level when we started off in kindergarten were the B-bots. You had a presentation on that piece, just getting students to understand how can you think about logical steps, how would you analyze a problem to move those little B-bots. That moves in at the elementary level to code.org curriculum, and we've had kind of a very soft lead into that throughout the grade levels, that Ali Sauter had gone through and matched the code.org curriculum up with the standards. So we've had this soft rollout, and we're going to review that again next year based on the teachers' experiences. Do they want to go faster? Do we have more time now? Since we're kind of doing an alignment between our CKLA curriculum and social studies, where would they like to have that pacing go through in the next few years? So that was kind of that nutshell about elementary that you know more about. And so we're going to lead into the middle school and high school levels. And each of the teachers, I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves up at the podium and maybe share with the board how long you've taught in Indianola or these particular subjects. And then they're going to speak to their slides in the presentation.
Yeah, you just want to hold down the mic.
Yeah.
And then we'll just introduce ourselves as we go
Yeah,
out.
if you'll step up to the podium, and that way too, since it's live streamed, people can hear you
Yeah.
out.
So I'm Matt Swartz. I teach 6th grade computer science. Basically, my curriculum is broken down to a couple different things. Mine is a little bit different than others. The students learn code.org in the elementary setting, and then from there, mine is more of like a creative coding. So with code.org, it's a little bit more boxed in. It's a lot like a puzzle with like a final answer. With the Scratch projects that we do, it's a little more creative, so the kids get to express themselves and they get to kind of take the route that they want to take from there. So it is still block coding, so it goes right along with code.org, and then it will lead into Mr. Rodriguez's 7th grade stuff, and so on and so forth. I don't only do coding, so that's where it's a little bit different than some of the other classes. I also do financial literacy, so I talk to them about money, and yes, when they're in elementary they talk about needs and wants, but this goes a little bit deeper. So it talks about things like investing for your future. It talks about like anything from, trying to find coupons and things when you're shopping to even like investing and stuff like that. So it is something that I think is very good for them. They don't really have anything between me and the high school though, but then they jump right back into it in the high school level. Digital literacy, so we talk about obviously being safe online. With that, it's kind of a growing thing, and we need to make sure that we are continuing to talk about those things because they're getting more devices in their hands, and obviously with like the middle school and things like that, we have Chromebooks and stuff, so we need to make sure that they know how to use them correctly and just using their time wisely with that stuff. Google Suite is also something that I teach, so it's a lot like Word and things like that when you were growing up, except now it's more online things that is project based. So it's all built around a project, and it takes them through each one of the different things within the Google Suite. And then we also do STEM career exploration. So I give them an option of looking through different types of STEM careers, and then it kind of talks through the different jobs that might go along with it. So let's say they pick game design, they might understand that there's multiple levels, not just the one person that codes the game. So yeah, and that's what we do in 6th grade. So
Thank you. Hi there. I'm Ann Van Treek, and I teach design modeling and automation and robotics at the middle school level. In 7th grade, they have an introduction to engineering and the design process. A lot of hands-on activities, problem solving, creative thinking, critical thinking. We take them from 2D modeling to 3D modeling, and they build with the 3D printer, their own designs. So they are still coding. They still do some coding, picking up from Matt, and they also create on CAD software. Yeah. Any questions?
Is this all elective?
No, well, I guess in my day I would call it an elective, but it's required. So every student, I see every 7th grader for 9 weeks. You get the 6th graders for.
the whole year. Yeah.
Oh, okay, so it's divided up. Okay, great.
But
Thank
Greg
you.
and I kind of tag team.
Okay.
Yeah? I think you're up.
How's everybody doing this evening? I'm Mr. Rodriguez. I've taught in the district for a whopping 10 months now. I've been teaching CTE for about 4 years now. So starting off with my 7th grade computer science lab, this is almost like a hybrid between Mr. Schwartz and Miss Van Treek's class of coding and engineering. Starting off with simplicity with the code, and then we work on to hardware such as LED screens, alligator clips, promoting electricity through household items. Towards the end, they have an option to basically go wild with their imagination as far as the final project goes. This one I'm very proud of. We had a group of girls that actually attached a microbit to a rocket, coded it, and it had a radio wired system where it actually kept track of acceleration throughout the air. There's been other projects such as, using pressure sensors to, if a dog bowl is weighing a little light, there's a way to actually automate food being put into the bowl. So final projects are really amazing. Like I said, it's just a hybrid, and then we'll perfect the coding in the 8th grade, and then that also promotes to high school. So that is 7th grade.
And then they pop over to me for a little bit more with continuing that engineering design process, learning about gears, gear ratios, and how we can have a transfer of power for to learn about Mechanical Advantage. So they work on the design process, communicating via sketches, all their own designs on building. And then the final unit, they'll actually build a robot and program it. So having an automated robot, and then also working with some of the remote controls that I borrowed from the high school. But thank you. So, we share. But yeah.
Me again, by the way. So 8th grade app traders. So what we do is block coding again. This time they use smartphones and tablets. They get really excited for some odd reason. But yeah, so essentially this is like more real life situation. So it's not just games or something like that. It's how can we make this better for our community and for the school. So towards the end, whenever we get to the final project, the project is create something that betters the community or their school or their grade. So this goes to, keeping track of recycling for a grade, maybe an emergency kind of text response type of thing in case something happens with the school or something like that. So they adapt these real life problems and apply it to their coding. And then this is a gateway to the high school. It gets their interest, and then that's where we transfer it over to the high school. Well, if you like this, you should continue on to the other classes. So it is a good selling point for us because the high school does touch on this. So it is a great way to kind of get them introduced to what they can do. Yeah. So this is a new thing this year. This is podcasting. It is an elective. Instead of a regular guided study, I elected to try this out for a class. Podcasting has taken a tremendous amount of potential and attendance throughout the high school and middle school levels throughout the country. I went to the iTech conference this fall. There was actually a whole block for learning about podcasting because it is a continuous growing. It is one of those forms of media that is, slowly gaining momentum, and it has grown momentum for some time. Not only are they recording, but they're also editing, so they are getting used to the editing software, trying to put pieces together. And there's also a wide range, so we do voice recording, but we also have students that give them a little bit of alternative where they can actually film their podcasting sessions and then edit it as well. And then, like I said, they go through an editing process, so it is like a constant cycle. They're busy all the time. It's either they're planning out a podcasting show or going on to recording, or they're going on to editing, so it's just an endless wheel for a 9 weeks class. So, and that's podcasting.
Okay, I'm Lexi Riccardi, and I've been teaching at the district for a year and a half. I started halfway last year, and I teach Project Lead the Way classes at the high school. So I teach the Introduction to Engineering and Design, Principles of Engineering, Computer Science Essentials, and then Computer Science Principles. So the first class is like an intro class to engineering, and it stems or basically kind of transitions them from the middle school. So Anne's 7th grade class is a lot like the Introduction to Engineering. They do the standards focus around how to be a professional in the engineering career, and then also the design process. They utilize CAD and 3D printing a lot. Can you scroll down right? Okay. So the projects really focus on the different types of design. So assembly design, thoughtful design, reverse engineering, human-centered design. Some sample projects that we've done this year, just to get them intrigued, we did an airplane launcher. Their task was the airplane lost its, I'm sorry, I'm blanking. The airplane couldn't take off properly, so they had to create a device to give it momentum. And so this was kind of like a makeshift project, but it was to get them creatively thinking. And then they did a mini golf course, which was all designed through their CAD software, Fusion 360, and they 3D printed it. So we have 5 3D printers at the high school, and we get to utilize those a lot. They're working on, the end project is going to be a gadget design, and then right now they're working on a human-centered design for creating a classroom that is designed for the visually impaired students. So they have to adapt the classroom so that it works for students with visual impairments. And then the second class is kind of more of a survey engineering class. So they do civil, they do electrical, they do mechanical. There's a variety of hands-on projects. This year we did a solar-powered car, we did bridges, we talk about hydraulic presses a lot. And then right now they're learning about machine control to work with robots, and their final project is going to build a robot that can play capture the flag together. So, yeah. And then the coding classes they stemmed right from the middle school. So the first class is perfect for 9th grade and above. They learn coding fundamentals, and it's really like first semester. Oh, I forgot to mention, all my classes are year long. So they're elective courses that are different because they're year long. So the first semester they learn a lot of block-based coding, and we go really in depth with block-based, and we take what the middle school has taught them and we go more in depth. And then we start looking at text-based coding, and we learn Python. You can keep scrolling. So they've done apps, they've done games, they've done some websites. They kind of get a lot of creative freedom, so I teach them the tools how to do it. And then I let them decide on their project what they want to do with the coding foundations that we've learned. And then the computer science principles is the second class in computer science. And it's perfect for 10th and above if they've taken computer science essentials. They learn text-based coding, so this is where we really dive deep into Python. And then sometimes, some semesters, like last year, we got to dive into hacking. This semester, we kind of taken a little too long, and we won't get to that. But they learn back-end programming, how computers work, and they dive in a little bit of Java so they can get to website building more. And then we also do sometimes BattleBots, which is really fun. And then the next 2 slides are just pictures of some of the apps that they've created. So they've created Space Invaders. A girl really wanted to create just like a sticker picture website where she could basically have graphics and put pictures wherever she wanted, or stickers wherever she wanted on the picture. And then they do a lot with the virtual Vex VR, and then also the real robots that we have. They get to code it and have it follow a maze or a map. That's kind of the projects. And then engineering. So those 2 on the left-hand side, those were some of their mini golf courses that they made. So this year they chose mini golf. Next, the year before, or maybe next year, they might choose like an amusement park. So I give them a topic, and they have to follow that theme within their group. It has to come together as a board. So it could be a board game, it could be a mini golf course, or it could be an amusement park. Last year we did drag cars, so that was like that little racetrack area. So they had to get it to stop before it hit the carpet, or else they were going to damage the material. That was an example of one of their bridges that they made, and I can't remember exactly, but I think it held 120 pounds. And then the fuel cell car. And then they just do they can either do it electrical, they can use a wind turbine, they can use solar panels. So it's just a couple of examples that we have at the high school. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. I don't understand half this stuff, but I know you do amazing work. So thank you for coming and presenting, because I think this is one topic we get a lot of questions about. What are they doing in those classes? So thank you for spending the time here and taking the time to do all that.
I would like to audit all of them. Yeah.
Any board member reports?
I have just one. We Lift Job Search Center, with the support of the Mr. On, we applied for one of the 8 grants across the state of Iowa for a summer youth internship program, and we were awarded it close to $43,000, where we can take our at-risk youth, so those that are at risk of not graduating, those that have dropped out, those that maybe went off to college and never graduated, between the ages of 14 and 24, so we can fill 20 spots. So if anybody has people that they've worked with or families they know that would fit in that eligibility, we would love to take them. It is, we will do 3 weeks of classwork, everything from financial literacy to character development, to bring your A game, to C3 de-escalation, and that will all be paid. And then we have 5 businesses in town that they will also be paid for on-the-job training. So we were excited to get it along with some of the other local schools. So
How much is it again?
$43,000. Yeah, we're excited.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Anybody else? All right. Moving on to our delegation, petition, and communications. Do we have anybody on the list?
It's Kyle Galberg.
Good evening. Greta Southall and I are here to represent the Indianola Education Association as Chief Negotiator and President, and Pete Clancy is with us as well as the UNISERV Director. To update the board and community with a timeline of how negotiations have progressed, what some of our expectations are concerning negotiations, where we have met an impasse, and a few questions that we have for the board at large. In our speaking tonight, we will do our due diligence and to be factual and not interject hearsay, emotion, or items that are to remain in the closed negotiation sessions. As our contract from the 2019 to 2023 was coming to an end this year, a new contract needs to be negotiated by law. In October, IEA was elected and recertified by the Indianola school employees covered by the contract to be the organization who bargains with the district. Of the employees who voted, over 90% voted to certify us as the bargaining unit. In February, the opening statements were presented publicly and a number of productive meetings were held to continue our negotiation. As is common, there was a certain time when the district and IEA were not able to move forward and were at an impasse, even though it was perceived as a productive bargaining period and financial aspects were agreed to early on in the process. Since then, a chain of events has unfolded that we would like to update you on. Here's a timeline of events that occurred. April 5th is the last negotiation meeting that occurred between IEA and the district. This happened in the South Hall's room before school. With this meeting, it felt that IEA had verbal agreements to 2 of the 3 contested issues remaining and a final one that needed to be presented to the board. April 11th, Indianola School Board has a meeting with a closed session to deal with bargaining. April 12th, we were informed that all 3 contested issues were going to be denied by the district. April 13th, IEA files for mediation. April 20th at 7 a.m., the HR committee meets with an update on negotiations. This act is tasked as for information only. 3:30 p.m., Greta Southall and Brady Darr meet with Superintendent Inns and John Clancy to discuss processes, thoughts on moving forward, and agree that a decision maker from the board will be available for the mediation process. Superintendent Inns and Ms. Clancy expressed interest in mediation dates on May 1st or May 2nd, and that Board President Rob Keller will be available to be a decision maker. April 26th, a phone call occurs between Superintendent Inns and Pete Clancy, ISEA UNISERV Director, indicating the mediation process will be unproductive as the district has no intentions of moving at all. May 1st, attorney from the district tries to contact ISEA attorneys. May 2nd, a phone call between the district attorney and IEA attorney reaffirming that the district has no intentions of moving off their position through the mediation process, which leads us to today's date, May 9th, with no agreement on a contract or proceeding with mediation. The master contract stipulates that under Article 4, the procedure for negotiations. A, mutual commitment to good faith negotiations. Good faith negotiations require a free and open exchange of views by the parties involved in the negotiations. Therefore, both parties agree to meet at reasonable times and places to negotiate in a good faith effort to reach an agreement in accordance with Chapter 20 of the Iowa Code. Articles tentatively agreed to shall be initiated by each party and dated and shall be set aside subject to ratification of the agreement. C, negotiation teams. Neither party in any negotiation shall have any control over the selection of the bargaining representatives of the other party. The parties mutually pledge that their representatives will be clothed with all necessary power and authority to make proposals, counter-proposals, and to reach tentative agreement on items being negotiated. Thank you.
Thank you, Kyle.
Greta? Greta Southall?
I didn't want Kyle to have all of the fun, so I agreed to speak as well. I'm Greta Southall, as Kyle mentioned, Chief Negotiator for the Indianola Education Association. And on behalf of the Indianola Education Association, happy Teacher Appreciation Week, all of you in the house. I'm just going to talk a little bit about bargaining and mediation and what it means, and then I've got a few questions for the board that I would like you to take under consideration. For those of you who are new to bargaining, be you board members or audience members, mediation is the next step that takes place when parties are unable to reach an agreement on their own. A neutral third-party professional mediator will be called in to aid both sides in finding common ground. This is a normal procedure that regularly happens in bargaining. It is not a sign of failure, nor does a request for mediation and regular negotiations in the meantime. The two parties can still continue to meet and work in good faith while waiting for an opening with a mediator. And should bargaining be successful in that situation and an agreement is reached, mediation would then just be canceled and the tentative agreement would go before the members for ratification vote. So that is what mediation is and how it should work. And Pete can speak a bit more as a mediator himself on what mediation means. Tonight, we're asking a couple of questions because it seems that it somewhere the process has maybe come to a grinding halt. 1, does the district intend to continue the bargaining process and proceed to the next step of mediation? 2, will the district commit to entering mediation in good faith and truly seek common ground regarding handbook committee representation, family medical leave language that is inclusive of all families, and personal leave at the cost of a sub? 3, will the district ensure that their representatives are indeed clothed with all the necessary power and authority to reach a tentative agreement? Throughout this bargaining season, which, as Kyle mentioned, has gone very smoothly, despite Jen and I sometimes have font and Word versus Google Doc issues, but that
Substance is okay.
yes. But it really has been rather smooth until of late. So throughout this bargaining season, we operated under the assumption that when we were meeting, everyone in the room had that power to reach a tentative agreement. However, after the last session and then the subsequent board meeting, it appears that perhaps the district may not have been operating under the same parameters that we believe we were all operating under. And that is all. Thank you.
Greta? Pete Clancy?
Hi everyone, my name is Pete Clancy, and as Greta and Kyle said, I am the ISCA staff person that works with the Indianola Education Association. Prior to that, I was also a chief negotiator as a teacher for 10 years. So for the past 15 years, I have actually done more mediations than I can remember. And so they asked me to speak a little bit to the process of mediation. Like both Kyle and Greta have mentioned, mediation is a normal part of the process. It is, in other areas, you might call it alternate dispute resolution. And as someone that's also trained in mediation, I can say that mediation is not about who is wrong and who is right. It's about finding that common ground in the middle. There are not going to be winners and losers in mediation, and there's no cost to doing a mediation. The IEA is simply asking that the district approach mediation in good faith, willing to go through the process to find solutions to the issues. There are kind of 3 parts of mediation. One that we've been emphasizing is that ideally it's collaborative, that mediation brings in a facilitator, formally called a mediator, that is going to help both sides reach an agreement or a solution to the issues at hand. Ideally, a mediation is going to be more of a brainstorming session to how do we solve these problems, than it is going to be adversarial or positional bargaining. Second, it allows us to dig down into the issues more than a positional bargaining would normally allow us. Everything that's left on the IEA's items and impasse has a root cause. And mediation gives us a chance to examine those root causes and hopefully find a solution that works for everyone. And that is the third reason that mediation is actually a boon to anyone that participates in it, is it, instead of one side having to give in to the other, it allows us to come up with a solution that works for everyone and that everyone can be happy with and excited about. In my experience over the past 15 years doing these types of sessions, when both parties enter mediation in good faith with the willingness to find those common grounds, mediation has some huge benefits in addition to solving the resolution and the bargaining. Like I've mentioned, it's solutions that people will be excited about. Mediation allows us to get out of the framework of adversarial bargaining back and forth and into a more discussion, interest-based, collaborative approach to bargaining. And also in my experience, the process of going through mediation, even once, increases the relationship between the association and the district. I've had places go through a 1 hour mediation over an issue that ultimately ended up going from the district that I get the most complaints about to the district I get the least complaints about, just by participating in 1 hour of mediation. Improved the relationship between the association leaders and the district on that. So we're here today because of real issues facing your staff here in Indianola. This is not about more pay. Financials are off the table at this point. And this is not about teachers just looking to get more time off. Like I've mentioned, this is the association leadership and bargaining team responding to real problems and real issues that their members have brought forward to them in bargaining. This is about the association looking to collaboratively solve problems that their members have brought to them. And I want to reiterate, the association really felt that bargaining was going well, had been productive, and we are all looking forward to finishing off bargaining in a collaborative, positive manner, either through a voluntary settlement or continuing on into a good faith mediation. Thank you.
Patty Alexander.
Hi, I'm Patty Alexander, and I want to express my sincere gratitude to the board members for all your volunteer work, and your work and dedication is very much appreciated. I'd also especially like to thank the educators and administrators of our district. I believe we all have the best interest of our kids at heart. As you know, our legislators recently passed Senate File 496 and will be signed into law by Governor Reynolds. The bill was passed to address age-appropriate materials in schools in the state of Iowa. Let me explain what the bill does. As outlined in the bill, each school district shall establish a kindergarten through grade 12 library program that is consistent with the educational standards and contains only age-appropriate materials and supports the student achievement goals of the total school curriculum. Americans have traditionally agreed on the idea of age appropriateness. We accept movie and video game ratings, explicit warnings on music and internet access. Children in schools do not have unfettered access to any of these things. So, books presented to children in a public school setting are no different. I believe that schools have the responsibility to provide quality literature that empowers students to face future problems with solid virtues, strength, and courage. With that said, we know you'll be doing some goal planning in the near future. Here are just a few of the millions of titles that we would like you to consider filling the curriculum, classrooms, and library with. The Hero, 2 Doors Down, Treasure Island, Johnny Tremaine, The Screwtape Letters, Paper Wife, Everything Sad is Untrue, The Old Man and the Sea, and even Les Miserables. Thank you all for serving our community and our students. We hope you'll take this information into consideration as you review your goals and priorities for our district in the upcoming months. Thank you.
Thank you, Patty. Does anybody else want to speak? And that's it.
Thank you to everyone for coming this evening. Moving on to the consent agenda. Did anyone have anything they wanted to?
this the one that has the contract in it for IJ?
The juvenile court, yes.
What is that new? Is that something different that we've never done? Or contract we already have?
It's a renewal. It's a renewal of a contract. So it's,
Thing that I had a question on.
yeah,
It's the middle school and the high school.
yeah. Jeff Brooks is our juvenile court liaison.
Yep.
That served both buildings. We'll go to the elementaries, but typically is at these two buildings.
He's been here.
For a long time, yeah. So basically, we receive just over $20,000. It doesn't even pay half of his salary, but it does help. So we moved that through the process.
Yeah, it was one of the most thorough contracts I think we've reviewed for anything. I think we've had building projects that have been less thorough than that contract. I was like, holy cow.
Yeah. And it's the same one, updated every
Yeah.
year, so, yeah.
Okay. Well, that's a little
And there
more-
was one, I don't know if it was noted in the packet, but it was one of those teach agreements that our preschool associates work with. So Margaret Bergen, that came, did you see it? Okay. This one was last minutes from the last time. But I believe there's a new one that just came in this week, so we could wait till June, but it came in after we sent the packet out, so.
All right, I have a motion made by Sue,
Second.
seconded by Donna. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 6-0? Yeah.
Correct. District and action items. First up is going to be our handbooks.
Before you ask questions of our building principals, in your packet, you have the changes for the middle school, the high school, and the elementary school. And one of the changes that was just made today, this morning, it'll be for all three of the handbooks. If you want to look at the back of whatever the middle school one, guidelines for the use of the school. We don't have a mascot anymore. So it's the logo name is what we've used. So any place where in the previous handbook where it said mascot is just changed to logo and name. So that's just one of the pieces that it came in late, so it'll be different. So I wanted to make sure that everybody had this in their possession, if there was any questions on that. And then you can fire off your questions to the building principals if you have any more in regards to the rest of the handbook information.
Jeff?
I have one addition that was not on yours for the high school that I'll point out. And it is on, it'd be the fourth and fifth page that you have, dealing with structured study halls. And it would be on the second page. You see a highlighted electronic technology incentive. At the end of that statement, I just needed to add a little bit more because we are in a study hall setting and we still do have a instructor or a monitor in that environment. So I just wanted to make sure we added at the end of that, after electronic device, at the discretion of the study hall monitor, just knowing that there could be other things at play in that environment. So I don't want it to look like an automatic for a student and to automatically assume that it's a right for them. It's an option for them if they're in that. So that was the only change I had to my notes.
Where's that at, Jeff? What number?
It'd be inside the last page of the high school changes.
Up on the screen too.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, just where it says electronic technology incentive, add on to the end of that, at the discretion of the study hall monitor. And for the high school, I mean, other than the study hall expectations, the rest of mine was all policy updates where it was directly related to our current school policy. So if you have any questions for me, know that as well.
My only question that I had was the change in the nurse evaluation or whatever, visually looking. Was there something that created that? I think it's on the middle school and
No, I think it's elementary.
I'm not sure of that one.
probably not a question that you have to answer then.
Are you talking about at the end, the school nurse provides for physical wear for each child?
Yes.
at
Yeah,
the
I just
school?
was curious what the context in that change was. I mean, I don't have any issues with it. Was there a lawsuit or something like that tied to that?
Well, the AE.
Created that?
I think the AEAs do. Are you talking about the vision screening?
Yeah, will visually evaluate students. I don't see it right now.
Was that in the health handbook or in the elementary handbook?
I think it says the nurse will conduct visual screenings and care for students at
Yeah,
work.
yeah.
I think we took that from our
There's
health.
health handbook, so we wanted them to
Okay.
be consistent between the two.
Yep.
Are the Chromebooks at the elementary returned at the end of the year?
Not necessarily. Some parents may opt to have them stay at school for the summer, and they sign a form, and we do house them.
Otherwise, they take them home.
Yep. Per parent discretion.
You guys want me to start? I just have a question. And this is more, I think, a board discussion than probably, but if we go to like the anti-bullying, the harassment, more of the conduct stuff, we have their consequences in here, their first offense and second offense, third offense, but nowhere in our policies does it talk at all, except in substance abuse and stuff. Are they getting any education about some of this stuff? Like, it will say, guess where my notes are here. Like, they might have to do a substance abuse evaluation, but an evaluation, I think, is extremely different than education. Same with the harassment or physical assault or anything. There's nothing in these policies at all that has any education that has to go along with that. And I think that's probably one thing we need to look at. In-school suspension would always be probably, hopefully, our first one if there's a family situation where it's safer to have the kids at school than at home. And I know we changed the policies last year, so the administrators didn't make kind of that call on, but we still don't have anything in here that says much about an education curriculum. I mean, again, Warren County has employee and family resources on a grant for this county that can come in and do these things for free for every one of our schools and all age groups. And I don't know why we're not accessing them, because ultimately education is power in every decision we make. And so in a substance abuse evaluation, that is not an education. And so I think we need to either do I think we can do better when it comes to what we can add into these different offenses. So,
Can we add that in for something?
well, see, the ones that it says substance use and substance abuse evaluation, but doesn't have anything on counseling. But nothing on counseling or education or anything like that. And I think that we need to do our due diligence in this stuff when it comes to the education of it.
Well, I would add though that I think a lot of times if we're dealing with families and students that are going down that path and really struggling, that is when we're suggesting the in-school counseling that we do provide and some of those things. So I do think that stuff comes to play, but it's not formalized any more than that, I guess.
Right, but like, I gotta find all my notes here.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of comes down to whether or not you're going to make it a contingency of allowing them to come back, or if it's going to be a recommended course of
Well,
action.
but that's what one of the policies do say, I just can't get to it. It says that they cannot come back without a substance abuse
Yeah, we brought that
evaluation.
last year.
Right, that's a
Yeah.
substance abuse, and is that being provided at the school for free?
Yes.
We have a substance abuse evaluator at the schools for free?
I don't think we have it. I think we have to get it. That was one of the things that we added last year.
Yeah, do we have a?
No, it's being done at the House of Mercy.
So they come,
It was an outside source that we talked about.
and we're contracted with them to come in?
They set up the appointment, they take that evaluation.
So and then what about people that can't afford that?
And I think that was left last year, that if we got into that situation, there were ways that we could support those families if they needed it, but nobody's asked for it.
Well, we talk about being transparent, we talk about making sure we're, I don't know, I just think we could improve in some of these ways and use the resources that we have with our community in that regard. You guys have something else? There's something, I just can't find it right now. I have so many things here. So, if you guys have something else, then give me just a second.
The removal of the ADHD language.
Yeah.
What's the background behind that? It says something about ADHD medication.
Is this a policy for taking medicine at school? Again, that came from our health handbook.
Handbook, okay.
So we just wanted it to be
Making it match up.
consistent.
Yeah. So again, they scratched kind of completely a paragraph that said any drug being used for attention deficit disorder, which is classified by the government as a class 2, I should say controlled substance, not narcotic, but must be delivered to the school by an adult, parent, or someone designated. So does that mean kids?
No.
What is that scratched for?
I think it was just more, all medicines must be brought to the student health office and will be kept there in the paragraph above.
Okay.
Instead of identifying individual medicines to be more all-encompassing.
Just all,
Yeah.
okay, thank you. Okay.
And I do think in some of these, we keep using the word controlled substance. I think maybe we could define that a little bit better. And I think we could define the word victimization a little bit better as well. And I know that there's some definitions, some of these yearbooks have definitions at the end. Those would be things we could maybe just define in the back. One thing that I'm talking with law enforcement about a lot is what is the definition between being bullied, being harassed, being assaulted, being victimized, right? And so they get a lot of calls to a home where a kid has called them saying their parents bullying them, right? And so I think maybe we could look at some best practices out there and get a little bit better on our definitions, because we just, in some of these we say, or victimized. What does that mean, right? What exactly is a controlled substance? I don't. So like under the anti-bullying and harassment policy, the second paragraph says the board prohibits harassment, bullying, hazing, or any other victimization of students. So I don't know that this is really your guys' thing. This is more me saying, as a district, how can we get stronger? And then how do we, in that same anti-bullying and harassment policy, when it says, when looking at the totality of the circumstances, it says, objectively hostile school environment that meets one or more of the following conditions: has a substantial detrimental effect on students' physical or mental health, has the effect of substantially interfering with the student's academic performance. How are we measuring that? Just because, I know we've had situations where, how I would perceive that would not, in my mind, be detrimental. And what the person's describing me in my mind is not detrimental to the situation, but to this person, it's 100% detrimental. So we're on anti-bullying and harassment policy, 1, 2, and I don't know even what handbook I'm in. I'm in the elementary one. And It was just the first one I read, and then I realized they were all in, so I'm not picking on you, it was just the first one I read, because I think it's in them all.
Yeah.
But it's 1, 2, 3, the fourth paragraph, and then the bullets.
Page 15.
Oh, oh yeah, the original, yeah. So, like I know we've dealt with a situation where one of the principals were like, that's not really what is happening to your son or daughter. And the parent's like, that is absolutely, and then it kind of went, and so, and I don't know, maybe that's something the board goes and research best practices and other policies in other districts about how are we measuring some of these things so we have a little bit more of a rubric to go on so the administrators aren't caught in this position where they're trying to make a decision and the parents are one way or the other way, and then all of a sudden it blows up. So, like I said, maybe that's more of a board thing that we do and find best practice or ask.
But I mean, I would also answer that though, when going through the investigative process, yes, up front, oftentimes it'll be one side or the other. And it's usually blown up one side or the other because one side doesn't have all the information.
Right.
So I think through the investigative process, how we go through it is we get all the facts, we get the details, we try to interview witnesses, and you go through all those other parties. It's not just coming from one person.
Well, I'm thinking more probably at the elementary level.
Okay.
Well, you know, at the high school level, you would think that your sources may be a little bit more credible, but.
Well, we do the same thing at the elementary level. We definitely investigate both sides. We talk to all students, staff that were
Oh, no, yeah,
involved.
I think it's just, you guys are doing a great job. I'm just making sure that we're not setting you up to be in a position where they come back and say, how are you saying that this is not dangerous to my child? But, you know, and more protecting you guys than leaving wiggle room for them to say, well, so, I don't know, maybe, like I said, maybe we took a look at some other board policies.
I will tell you that if we feel like there's some situations, like we'll create safety plans that we have that is on basically a safety plan for both parties. And a lot of times we'll try to keep separation, we'll make schedule changes, we'll do things like that. So depending on what the situation is.
I would say we work individually or with the parents on an individual basis to ensure that these are taken care of too.
And a lot of times with that, you're going to have check-ins with the student every single day, multiple times sometimes, to make sure that there's nothing going on.
And I think what you're saying, Sue, is you're saying that it would be nice to have something in here that is explaining what that is more so than just the definition. Because the definition that we have is what you're going to find if you Google it. It's what you're going to find in the state. It's the definition. But there's really not a lot of guidance for us to go off of other than that definition. And I think that's kind of where it sounds like you're trying to talk about.
And at the elementary level, is Officer Hackett routinely called in on certain situations, or do you guys deal with them more in-house at that?
No, we utilize Officer Hackett as well.
Actually, we just had a situation today, we had a situation today where he's involved with it.
So do you feel like he's being called over more than a couple years ago?
Well, I don't know the answer to that.
At the elementary level?
Yeah, at the elementary level.
I would say for my building, it's been less this year.
And then on that page 16, do we have a director of student and staff services? Page 16, I just didn't realize. We did. Can you pull that up? I'm in the elementary handbook.
He probably doesn't have that.
But it basically says the school or school district, I can't read. The school or school district will promptly and reasonably investigate allegations of bullying or harassment. The director of student and staff services.
It should be the HR.
Yeah, that's just what, we just need a name change. I don't know who. So on the packet that we were able to print out, it's page 16 on the elementary. So that's all I didn't.
Where's that at on page?
So on yours, 16, right after retaliation against, it's the next paragraph, the school or school district, right above the bullets. that say the board will annually publish the policy. The Director of Student and Staff Services. And I don't know, is that gonna be our new will that be our new HR? Is that who would?
Yep.
Okay.
What we'll do when it comes to Title IX and things like that, once that new person's in place, we'll bring an addendum to the board and we'll make sure that it's shared and it'll go in all the handbooks.
Yeah, okay.
I looked through this stuff, didn't have any issues with any of the changes that were made. I do have a question for the four of you that are here. Ted and I talked about this a little bit yesterday, and I've talked to another board member or two. I think my personal desire for the future would be that all of our handbooks are formatted in the same manner. They're all aligned in the same manner. So if we look at the elementary handbook or the middle school handbook or the high school handbook, they're all the same. Not necessarily word for word, but each bullet point being aligning the same throughout all three handbooks, or even more than that. The other handbooks, the employee handbooks, the health handbook, and all being in the same font, the same size, the same, just making them cohesive so they're a little bit more attractive and easy to look at and work through. From your guys' perspective, is that process something that you want the board to be involved with helping with? Or is that something that you want to work with directly with administration for possibly next year or the year after that?
Well, I think it's something that we can work with central office to complete pretty easily.
And we did it with the middle school this year. I mean, I
Yeah, we got
completely
together.
reworked my handbook to be more like the middle schools because of the conversation we had last year.
We'll just pull you over, Jeff, with our next elementary meeting. Thank you, Joe.
That's all I had.
Trained
So.
Christie, so she's very capable of helping us. Just kind of-
I appreciated Jeff's help.
Derek, if you go to the good conduct rule, page 18, under first offense. So we say that students will be allowed the option of completing 3 scheduled counseling sessions with one of the middle school counselors. And this is more kind of for board. I would, in today's world with where mental health and all that is, why is it an option? Why is it not they complete 3 scheduled counseling sessions?
We talked about that last year, and the reason why we kept that verbiage in was because we weren't sure that everyone would be able to afford to go and follow up with that.
No, because now they're on site.
These are the school counselors.
These are the
right?
school counselors. So I'm just saying, I don't know that it should be an option. I think they just
I
do
think
it.
Tim's right. Well, we did talk about that, and I think it was a scheduling concern.
I think-
Whether or not we were going to have the ability to maintain a
Well, even if-
requirement.
Or then we just, I think at least they need at least 1 counseling session.
I will tell you, I don't know that I've ever had where they have ever denied the counseling, but I think it's in there because there are times parents can suggest that they do not want any counseling. Now, I will tell you, I have never, I don't think even at the high school, had a time where they denied a counseling section. Because a lot of times Jeff Brooks does that as well.
Right.
But I think parents have the right to counsel. I mean, if they want to say, no, you're not going to have any counseling.
In the card, if we have an alcohol or drug incident, they are strongly encouraged to go to the expert counselor. But it is still the soldier's decision on whether or not they seek that counseling.
But they're over 18.
I get that. I'm just saying that.
The counseling sessions are with whom?
On-site, the mental health.
The mental health, okay. Well, not necessarily. They could be with our counselors or Mr. Brooks.
Okay, because we used to
Yes,
hire.
based on whatever their needs are.
Yeah, because there used to be a group that came in from Tammy Hoyman's, and those counselors did it because my daughter did it, so, but they could see in 3 times, it was really frustrating, you know, on the counselor's part, just to only see them 3 times, and that's, you know, they didn't know what happened to them after that, so. Yeah. I have a question about the backpacks. So, do the kids in the middle school, they're like the high school kids and just carry their books all day and don't use their lockers at all? I mean, high school kids don't wear jackets, they don't wear, I mean, we know that, you know, they
Yeah,
just
so
carry.
before COVID, we never had backpacks. And then the year after COVID, we allowed backpacks because we were trying to stop all the big, gatherings by lockers.
Right.
It has become a safety issue with the backpacks because they carry a lot of stuff in them, not what they need. And they put them on the chairs, and the chairs flip back. And then they also put them on the floor. Our rooms are very small, and we have 25 to 28, 29 kids in the classroom, and they become a hazard. Plus, with all the safety things, I have a group of people that got together, and they just want to say that we need to go back to having no backpacks again.
Well,
Just
that's
for
great.
safety.
I just was curious if you guys were having them.
Yeah, and last year we went to drawstring bags, but the kids are now carrying backpacks. They carry them to,
Well, those drawstring bags got really heavy with the Chromebooks and stuff,
they can fit in there. And they also have, we said they could have little, like laptop bags this year, but the backpacks have grown. They came at the beginning of the year, we actually had a desk, it could fit in the desk. I mean, they have grown now, they're about this wide and carry everything that they really don't need because we don't have textbooks anymore. We have a Chromebook, a free reading book, and then just a pencil pouch. We're gonna allow trapper keepers next year. So we're kind of going back the way it was before COVID.
Okay, just curious.
And I'm sure that's gonna cause some issues because we had upset parents just because we had just allowed just the bags. So, good luck. But that's what the teachers wanted, so.
I see why.
And then I have one more thing, and it's just wording. It's on page 24. And really in the world of when we talk about low-income homeless, we don't call somebody homeless because that's identifying them. If we say they're experiencing homelessness, it's a situation. So if it's not too much work to just say the board will make reasonable efforts to identify children and youth of school age experiencing homelessness instead of calling them homeless. So it's just being called something versus a situation. So we just need to, so I can give that wording to whoever.
Could we say children or youth experiencing homeless, and just change instead of homeless children or and youth?
Yeah, so if you're just you're experiencing a situation versus this is who they are and they're homeless. And so that's not who they are. It's just the situation they're currently
Can you
in.
email that to me? Just, I'll search my email because I'm sure I've got that in there somewhere too.
Sure.
Yeah, it's not the same.
Could you put me on that too? Thank you.
Or I'll have.
I'll send it to him right now.
Thank you, and then it's just the next sentence too has to be kind of switched around too.
Are they both on page 24?
24, just in that top paragraph instead of
Okay,
just.
because the board will make a reasonable, yep.
Yep, so just making sure that they're experiencing it, so it's the situation, it's not who they are. Thank you.
So it'd be children experiencing.
Board policy.
Sue, that's a board policy, I think.
Is it, oh yeah, then it is us, then it is policy, thank you.
We'll add that to our next Thursday meeting.
So 501.16, so,
That'd be 604.3.
oh, I don't know.
Or is it above or
I'm
below?
taking it.
Oh, never mind, 501.
Here's the.
So Sue, based on when you were talking about the things that are on the board to look at, Are you good with acceptance of those with, it's on the Director of Student Staff Services being replaced with the appropriate title with changes to page 24 to address homeless children to children or youth experiencing a homeless situation as presented, or?
Yeah, and then I think we need to define what a controlled substance is.
That's something, is that something you think that we can work on as a board, or do you think that holds up the policies?
I just think we need to do more education rather than just, if a kid uses substance abuse, he's using it for a reason, right? And so evaluations are very powerful, but what's the action behind the evaluation? So then we find out he's had his evaluation and it's like, yeah, he's at high risk of repeated behavior. And we're like, okay, well, good luck, just don't get caught, you've done your evaluation, right?
But they're also they're giving recommendations through that evaluation process of next steps that they can.
Right, but do they follow them?
Well, I mean, we're in a world of
But you
choice.
can't, we can make a policy to say that they have to go through some education classes.
So in addition to,
There is no counseling right now for some of
evaluation,
this.
another individual, another. I mean, they're saying that they're kind of getting some of that in the evaluation. It's not written, but there may be.
I just think we can, I think we can do better. And I think maybe that's gonna have to go into a work session probably to see what that would look like.
So my question is, does the work session that we need to have hold this up, or is this good for production, and then we're working through our work session to identify where we need to make changes? I don't disagree with any of the things that
Well,
are
if it-
presented. I don't think it's just a nomenclature change. I think there's probably some stuff that we need as a board to identify where we're gonna go, and I don't know that this needs held up as we go through that process that we've already addressed that we need to go through.
Correct.
That's all I'm
And
trying
I'm
to-
asking a question because I don't know the answer to this question. Is when we pass this, the next time we can come back to a handbook and edit would be this time next year.
Well, our goal is to try to get them done sooner next year. We had talked about trying to get them done
But
by
if we-
February, right? Wasn't that what we talked about, February, March? And I think the biggest thing is if when you talk about making changes, we can sit here and talk about those changes, but that shouldn't really be a work session for that, because I really think those voices need to be there as well, because the enforcement of it and what it looks like really needs to be a process that's together. I just think that's really important, because, we can say this is a definition, or this is what we're going to do, and what we think and what's possible, or what you might think isn't possible, could be possible. I think that conversation just needs to be had.
Yeah, we've had some of that already, as we talk about some of the individual
Yeah,
cases.
I'm frustrated, there's resources available at our fingertips for free, and we are a school district not accessing them. And our mental health isn't getting better, it's going through the roof, and I feel like it's an obligation to bring in the specialists that have the knowledge to deal with this, and even if it changes 3 kids' life, changes their life. So I don't know what that looks like going forward. I don't know.
And even with that doesn't mean that we can't reach out and have those resources available. I mean, if we're working with students and those resources are available, we can always share that with families, saying, these resources within our community are things that you can do. I think the toughest thing is always going to be, we're going to have a very difficult time ever saying, you have to do this before this. That requirement becomes very difficult with families, because again, it's their option.
But we're requiring a substance abuse evaluation.
Yeah, those are pretty easy to get a hold of, but if we're talking about a lesson plan or
We're not.
interview training, that might take weeks when the suspension can be gone by then. So if we're gonna have that, I don't think you tie it to the same
But it's
thing.
hard to say that when we as a district haven't even reached out to all these organizations that are available.
Well, I would say it would be helpful if you send us the list and we can start evaluating some of it, because I don't even maybe know what some of those things are that you know of.
I just think if we're gonna do a substance abuse evaluation, that needs to couple with a mental health session.
So I've got a question. Is the health handbook limited by the same restrictions of only being evaluated once a year?
I guess I don't know, this is my first time going through it with this group.
So my thoughts would be perhaps the whole mental health thing, we could update our health handbook with the feedback that we get from a joint session where we're talking through some of these things. And the health handbook, just like it has in this situation here, has generated changes. So we're not waiting another year. We're actually doing something that, you know, identifies how we're going to handle things and the services that Sue's talking about that are available, and we start shaping that, and then that drives the updates to the handbooks for next year. Because Sue, I know you've been talking mental health, we've also been talking safety, we said we were going to make it a priority, and I hear what you're saying, I do.
I think all the things that you've written down and that we've all thought about are important, and we need to have these conversations. But I also feel like we're not going to get that fixed
That's my
in 30 days, in 60 days, in 90 days. If we approve the handbook as it is now and we want to make an amendment to them throughout the year, or if we want to start working on next year's handbooks now, this goes back to my earlier statement of, do you want the board's help? And I guess my thought is, are you willing to take the board's help? Because I think we want to be involved with it from the policy side and from understanding your perspective, so that when we're approving these things, we're all on the same page. So that would be my preference, I guess. If we approve the handbooks that were brought to us tonight for the 2024 school year, with the understanding that this is sounds like it's a priority for everybody else. This was a priority for me last year. I know it was a priority for you.
Well, I'm not doing this to put more work on people's plate. I'm doing this because we're watching the trends and we're watching our community.
Right.
And so, yeah, I mean, I also don't understand in education why things can't just be working documents, too. Right? That's just, I don't understand a lot of things.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I do.
So, I don't, it's fine. None of this is against any of you guys.
No.
It's about us trying to just do better. That's all it is. So I'm fine with this and continue to work behind the scenes to get what we need to get done to make sure our community.
We can make changes and get amendments put in during the year, can't we?
No,
Okay.
I would have issue with that, because I would feel that the parents would sign off and, yep,
Oh,
I read
yeah,
the
parents
handbook at
sign the
this
handbook,
time, in which they do and they enroll, and then we change it halfway through the year, then they can say, hey, when I signed it, this wasn't part of the handbook and part of the policy, so this shouldn't apply.
Okay.
So I think that's gonna
How do
cause.
you guys make changes to the handbook throughout the year with policy changes?
We do it for the next year. So we reevaluate the handbooks before this meeting to update policy. And that's what, like when the policy updates that I had were to mirror the school boards. And I got away from where it was condensed down and written in a condensed form, because I think I lost some of the meaning of the policy, and I just went straight to the policy. So if you guys are making changes throughout the year, when it comes time to re-update my handbook, I'm gonna look at those policies again, if it's changed or not, and I make those changes at that time.
But as far as following that policy, our board policy is going to supersede the handbook, regardless of whether or not there was an amendment made.
Trumps everything.
But we don't republish it on the website until
the following year.
Okay, that's a good question to ask. That's good. I thought that what we decided in here wasn't enforceable for a whole year, and that was pretty defeating. I'm glad to hear that's not the case.
Changes to board policy would override anything else that we have in any handbooks.
Well, I don't know, John, or someone else, when you guys are doing your policy readings, when do those go into effect? Are those immediately, or?
We have two readings, yeah.
We have links now that's connected to those policies.
I'm guessing I'm gonna have to update those links if it's already up. It won't be that easy.
It'd be the same one that they.
And that's the great PDF, that would be a PDF.
All right, is there a motion on the?
I'll make a motion. I make a recommendation to accept the elementary, middle school, and high school handbooks as presented with edits to the Director of Student and Staff Services with the appropriate title, changes to page 24 to reflect homeless children to children or youth experiencing a homeless situation.
Is there a second? Any further discussion?
Who seconded it?
Ryan. Sorry.
Right.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 6-0.
Now you have to do the activities, the transportation, and the health services, or did you encompass all those?
Say again?
The activities handbook, the transportation handbook, and the health services, did you encompass those in that?
I did not encompass those.
You can make a second one for those three.
I don't even remember that whole list. What does it say?
Activities, transportation, and health services.
All right, make a recommendation, we approve the activities, transportation, and health services handbooks as presented.
First by Tim, second by Ryan. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Opposed, 6-0. All right, teaching and learning.
Nothing on that this evening.
Human resources.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Have a good end of the year.
Let me get down here to the right page. What page are you on, Ray? I'm sorry.
102.
You can just scroll up. It really, we've already talked about. We talked about the assistant activities director position, which is on your sheet, hired. But we talked about just the process, and I don't know, Sharon, do you want to update us on the human resource position?
Sure, so on Monday, we do have, on Monday we will have interviews for the Director of Human Resources. We're bringing in 3 candidates for the position, so hopefully we'll have someone in place by the end of the day Monday or Tuesday.
And then we just talked about, John spent some time on talking about the part-time insurance and how Shelley, I know Shelley's doing a ton of work, working one-on-one with families and employees and all that. So I think, do you have any update on how it's going, or?
We finished enrollment last night at midnight, and I think by 10 o'clock everybody had done something, which was good. So of that, about 13% of associates have signed up for health, about 30, and part-time, so it's food service and associates would be that realm, and 30% have signed up for dental. So.
All we really talked about.
Perfect. Ray, did you have anything for technology?
No, we did not meet, so.
He's not been doing anything all month, huh? Is that right? Yeah. He's lonely, yeah.
Finance, facilities, and support. We've got the resolution for Gov Deals on page 103.
So Gov Deals is, you may have heard of it, you know, it's kind of a online, and we've used it before, but there's the resolution that we've included here for approval. It came from our lawyers. They reviewed it. They do have the state bid price, the bid for this, so what that allows us to do is offer this online without having to do 2 meetings, or advertising 2 times in the newspaper, a week apart, which is just checking the boxes, really. But at the end of the year, what we would end up doing is saying we sold these things and put that in the paper. We've had good luck in the past. Ray, you've been the one that's used it the most.
Yeah, we've sold for old networking equipment with printers, various equipment like that through this. It's worked out pretty well. Usually we require them to pay and then we pick up the equipment. We don't generally ship it out or anything. It's required to kind of be responsible for it.
And as we, this is something that now that it's in place, unless they lose the contract, the state contract. But there's not that many of these specific services out there, so I believe we're fine. Yeah, and I believe, what this will be helpful with is as the high school, as we try to purge some of the stuff out of the old high school, we could probably use it for those items and we're on, facilities is always turning things over as well, so this will be much, I hope, more streamlined for us, so yeah.
Web deals authorizing Indianola schools to enter an agreement for sales of surplus property.
Motion by Ryan,
Seconded.
seconded by Donna. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Opposed? 6-0. Monthly financial reports.
Just kind of stopped just a second. This is March. So, as you look, most of the funds look better than the month before, or the year before, which is always good. Let me pull this up. We still are awaiting, I believe, one set of we've expended about 600,000 that we should receive back from, I hope before the end of the year, Ray, of his technology stuff. It's called the ECF, so the Emergency Connectivity Grant. That's we do await that. So that would put the balance that much, another 600,000 higher. So we are almost $1 million higher in this piece, and as some, as you look at this 5 years down the road, you're going to go, what happened? If you don't know anything, if you've been under a rock and didn't know that ESSER existed and see all the federal funds that we typically don't get a lot of federal funds, and this money that we're waiting on is federal funds, our federal funds, as well as all the ESSER funds. So in trying to compare your last year and this year, these few years have been kind of an interesting time to do that, but as we start to deplete those funds now, we'll use all our learning loss. We may have a little bit of straggling of the final ESSER 3 that we'll use on either the nurse or one of Ray's guys to try to kind of feed us in so that we're not completely just killed next year for the budget piece. So, but yeah, other than that, again, April's the best month, right? That's coming next month. And Ted and I talked with Ted about the certified budget comparison, and as we look at this year, I thought we possibly would need to amend. I don't believe we will need to amend. We received $10 million for our of the bonds, of the $70 million bonds, we've received 10. We haven't had the expenditures, obviously, with those yet, and our facility building over here isn't moving as fast as I thought, so I think we're fine. As we look at the total budget, we should be under our maximum, so we don't have to do that. That's a good thing.
Thanks, Janet.
Yeah, she's like the bearer of good news tonight, isn't she?
I know.
Yeah, let's see, what else?
Because are they thinking next fall or spring to finish that building?
Well, we've kind of had some bumps along the road or issues that we've dealt with. The building pad was not to spec, so they had to tear that all out this spring. Had it ready to go in the fall, tear it all out, and they've redone it. So it's ready to go for footings now. They have poured the concrete for the parking lot, and it has failed. So now they have to tear all that out. They're still trying to figure out what happened, but at first I heard 40% of the panels failed, and then at the meeting last Friday they said 90%, and I said, then you're going to tear everything out, right? You're not going to leave those 2 panels that are good. So, and they said they seem to be getting worse as the time goes on. So they're still checking in. I mean, obviously there's an issue here either with process of preparing the ground, the concrete, or the application of the concrete. We don't know. I mean, they're dealing with that. But we are not responsible for that.
Is there a timeline on that contract?
No, we don't put, typically in schools, we don't use liquidated damages because they just add to the cost. So right now, I think it's April next year. We tentatively. We're supposed to get the concrete panels for the walls are supposed to come in May. Well, June, May or June.
June.
So, it's frustration.
Any kind of building knows that even if you do a small project.
And this is a very small project compared to what, so we'll see where this goes, but that was the latest as of Friday, so.
This is very disheartening. Why didn't you just stop before?
They didn't know, I mean, it was, when they poured it, the way I understand it, they poured it and then they cut it, they did the saw cuts. And when they started doing the saw cuts, I think somebody noticed it, but the guy that doing the saw cuts didn't stop anything, I mean, didn't change anything. They've done some core samples. I've been out of the district the last 2 days, so I haven't really heard anything more recently.
I'm not really, they sent an email, they're not really sure if it was a core, if it was a mixture of what it was, or just, they're still having discussions on what caused it to happen that way.
Is there any concerns that that's not going to be paid for?
Oh, no, it didn't meet spec, so it goes out, so it is not our cost. So now the insurance companies, I believe, of the contractor and the supplier will probably be working together.
To find it out.
So, but that just delays us another piece. It's like,
Does that have to be torn out and repaved before they can do anything else?
no, that was a discussion that they did have, and they said, when they come and put the panels up, they're gonna have a big crane, and as soon as you put the outriggers out, that damages your concrete. So they kind of want to wait, do those pieces, tear it out, and then fix it. Because if it does damage it, they will have to repair that prior to us taking
Signing
over.
off on it.
So we'll see what that has. There was a question asked if they were concerned that the quality, because of the failure of this concrete, if when they put the outriggers out, it would be danger or could cause more failure or cause more problem with the crane, and they did not think so. But yeah, this is. So Bernie's doing a really good job of, he's the one that he came to me and noticed it. And then actually their representative, their construction superintendent on site said, we do need to replace this. The whole thing needs to be replaced. So between the two representatives from Graphite, we had Snyder and Associate here. And so he sent out an email. I haven't read through the whole thing that kind of, set out the whole process. So if anybody wants to know that, I can share that with you, or you can see me after the meeting, more details on that. But, yeah.
You want to continue on with food service?
Yeah, food service prices. So, as you look at those, Ray, keep going. Next. So this gives you a 10-year history of our food service. So in talking with Abby, really, this is and I was at a meeting today, and almost everybody there, we had to increase 10 cents. That's for our full price. Our free and reduced, as we had talked earlier, if you choose to do that, the reduced price meals we talked about possibly being free for next year, because the cost of that is not as large as even the free population. So that would be part of this. I mean, in the action item, I think you'd probably want to state that so that it was memorialized here. But 10 cents for all the lunch prices. The adult prices went up a lot because there can be no commodity costs subsidized with an adult meal. So it went up quite a bit. So, and breakfast went up, I think, a nickel.
I think everything went up a dime, didn't it?
It did go up a dime, yeah, a dime. So,
Except for the adults.
Adult went up a lot, and that's, again,
Adult breakfast didn't change at all.
yeah.
The adult lunch is the only one that took a 70-cent jump.
Why they don't feed the adults during the summer meal program. Apparently they don't need to eat.
Is there a motion to approve the food service meal pricing increase?
We have to do approve the financials.
Yeah, the financials first.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve the March 2023 financials.
Second? Ryan? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 6-0. Now we can move on to the meal.
And you've heard the comment, so between the meal prices and the reduced price meal decision, those are the two things that need to be in that motion.
That's where prices are decision.
Is that?
Yeah, I'm just reading it, yeah. I make a recommendation, we approve reduced price meals at no cost in 2023-24 service meal prices as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Donna? All those in favor?
Aye. All those opposed?
6-0. Policy committee meeting report.
Okay, yeah, we have to do the 506. Policies, and all of them kind of revolve around records, requests, read them all, so, whether from parents or other entities, and just kind of, we didn't make any substantive changes, a few grammatical ones. I don't think we changed anything of substance, Ted. I remember, and there are some, the changes you see in red aren't, those came to us from the state. And we just went through one wording, I don't even remember which one it was, just toward the end. One wording issue that didn't change the substance, just it didn't sound correctly. And that is all.
That is the first reading.
That's the first
Yep.
one.
And there's a second reading. Yeah, 506.1 and R1.
Yep.
Just two, yeah, two.
Okay, make a motion to approve the second reading on 506.1 and 506.1 R1.
There's a motion to approve the second reading of the stated policies. Is there a second? Seconded by Tim. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Approved 6-0. And your first reading.
Motion to approve the first reading. Make a motion to approve the first reading of 506.1 through 506.1.
There's a first. Do we have a second? Seconded by Sue. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries 6-0.
That was for first reading of the new policies.
All right. Moving on to the calendar.
We need to add a work session.
On the 16th, a week from tonight, 5:30. I don't think it'll take the full 3 hours. It's just gonna have the board kind of get caught up to where we're at as far as the work that we've done with Teamworks International and kind of talk about where we're at and where we're going with that.
And you said 5:30?
5:30, yep. And I'll send out an invite to everybody and remind everybody as well.
I have to give up Tina Turner to come to this. Sarah, why are you shaking your head no?
I would not give up Tina Turner for anything.
Just going through all the committee meetings, administrators, is there any changes that need to be made to those dates?
Yeah, for the curriculum committee meeting, which was prior to this on the May 11th, that I emailed you why the legislation hasn't been signed and we don't have the FAST results back yet. So, and I'll be out of state on June 8th, and I think Donna's gone also. So we didn't know if there was a midway point where the curriculum committee
would want to meet. Whatever.
So not on the 11th?
This Thursday.
We're not meeting.
Thursday.
And you don't probably know when those results will be in and tabulated you, the readings.
They're supposed to finish testing this Friday, and then it usually takes a week and a half or so before they finalize it in the system. And then we're waiting for the governor to sign any new legislation that could impact novels that are recommended.
And she has 30 days from when it sits on her desk. So should we look for,
I'm just holding off on any.
Should we just go to June then? I mean, May is so crazy.
We do have ones, typically we meet in July, too. So we could wait until that July meeting.
so that would be the 13th of July. Is that the topic? I better put it in here.
That's fine.
Do we have one June 8th?
No, Donna will be gone and I will be gone.
Yeah.
Oh, so we are doing tomorrow,
No, we're not doing this. We're not doing this Thursday because the results aren't, they don't have their testing done yet.
sorry, I came in that halfway, sorry.
John, I will not be here for the 13th meeting in June.
The board meetings? Okay, so Tim.
Thanks for coming, Donna.
And I will
Tanya.
be here for the finance committee meeting on the 20th. I've got annual training in June, so I'll be gone.
In June, so your May, you would still, could still meet in May? Okay.
And all those finance and facilities committee are good, but the 13th regular board meeting in June I will miss, and the finance committee meeting on the 20th I will miss. And but I will make the facilities committee meeting on the 1st.
So on the 16th, or 13th, excuse me, do we have, everybody else good for that?
June 13th?
Yeah, June 13th. Sue?
I don't know.
Ben? You're good?
As of now.
Right? Okay. June 27th? What's June 27th?
That July meeting is 13th.
Technology, so tell them that.
May 18th for HR.
We plan on having the meeting on the 18th for HR, and we also plan on meeting on the 25th of the board policy committee meeting.
Okay.
Raise
So
the
next week, is that next week? So next week we have
finance.
16th.
Yep.
Work session, and then HR, and then.
In the morning. Yep.
Since it's summer on that career committee, do you still want to meet at 7? Annette, would you rather meet at 8? We don't have to meet at 7. It's summer.
8 o'clock would work for me.
That works for you guys? It would be summertime. Can sleep an hour.
Yes, that's really funny. This is just how my
Yeah.
life works. Yes, I just have to get people to the eye doctor.
So, Jonna, just to confirm for curriculum, we do not have May 11th or June 8th. We're going to be meeting on our July 13th at 8 o'clock.
So you're out, okay.
Oh, that's okay.
July 13th.
But I can sit out, I can take one for the team if everybody else needs to be there at 8.
It's up to you guys.
And I don't mind
Is that okay for you now?
Yeah, I have eye appointments, so it's okay.
I
have,
You decide, Sue, because if
Oh.
you got kids, if you got
Well,
an appointment.
Yeah, I have to get them to the eye doctor by 8:30, but it's whatever.
Well, if it's 8:30, you can't do an 8:30.
Whatever y'all decide, just let me know. They have bikes, they can bike to where they need to be. They always find a way to
Can
build.
you split the difference?
I can't see right.
The 7:30.
They'll have helmets on, really good.
Ray, did you say?
We don't have to meet on that day.
Yeah.
Sue, I don't know if you heard, but I will not be here on June 27th for our 4-H committee meeting. You two are welcome to discuss IT without me, but I will be here.
All right, the next agenda is attached. Is there any other business?
At this point, we'll do the closed session afterwards.
Ryan, you're in the chair. There's a motion, how about a second?
I'll say.
Seconded by Sue, all those in favor? Approved 6-0.